What's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14 and featuring that college football revamp as well. We are getting to that critical part of the season, that final third, where dreams are made, where championships are made, or where championship dreams are absolutely broken. We have a jam-packed episode in this one, 16 nationally televised games around the country that we will be traveling to and covering throughout the duration of this episode. But not only that, we will have various studio updates in this episode as well. We'll also check in on their other top 25 teams around the country, see how they're doing and what kind of effect that will have on the AP Top 25 as we get closer to that college football playoff poll having relevance to the national championship discussion. So guys, it's going to be a fun episode. We'll have a lot of football coming in your direction, so sit tight, get your favorite snack, and get comfortable because we got a lot of football in this episode. And I hope you guys are excited for it, and if you are, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. If you do have to be brand new to the channel, let's go ahead and step on the fields around the country for some quality college football action. Let's get it. So let's go ahead and get week number 9 action officially underway, as we do have a top 25 on our hands as well as many others. Speaking of that top 25 ranking, we'll check in on the Arizona Wildcats, who are 5-1, not ranked in the top 25. They could play themselves into that particular spot if they can take on this Utah team and take them down on the road. But Utah not making them look easy, as it is going to be a pretty defensive-minded game early on, just 6-0. As we get into the final moments of this first half, but got some time in the pocket's going to get into field goal range, courtesy of a Chris Douglas completion that goes for 11 yards. As now, 1st and 10 on the following play, got some time in the pocket yet again, throws over the middle and finds Adam Fowler in the end zone. Touchdown, Utah! And the Utes are going to carry a lead into the halftime locker room, and we could be watching ourselves starting this episode off with an upset win, because Arizona, not only are they losing this game right now, they are not even showing up at the moment. It's been tough to watch as Utah already up 20-0, and Joe Ingram is going to put a linebacker on his back. Oh my goodness, does Joe Ingram have some serious power? And now it's a 3rd and short. Ingram drops back, throws to the right hand side, and his receiver is going to just walk in like a Sunday stroll as Utah wins convincingly, winning 34-7 in his first game in the episode. But now we check in on the Friends of Cole rivalry game. This is pitting two teams that play Division I high-end football in the state of West Virginia. West Virginia and Marshall going at it, both teams seeking to solidify themselves more so in the MAC Conference Championship race, because West Virginia, with as rough as their season started, they actually do have a legitimate shot of going to the conference championship. They are off to a great start in conference play, and it helps that they get a 7-0 lead as well with their tailback. But Marshall's got some things planned for them as well. It was late in the first quarter. Marshall's got some time in the pocket, fires over the middle, and Aaron Edwards, well, I thought Aaron Edwards had a touchdown right there, but they're going to mark him down at the 1-yard line. As now, 1st and goal again, going to a sweep over the right-hand side, and CJ Charles is untouched. Touchdown, Marshall, and the Thundering Herd will nod it back up, and will actually even take the lead-off screen as well. So it's been a very back-and-forth rivalry game, but this might be a massive swing, as down the sideline, we got an interception thrown by Ostrander. And now Marshall has a chance to extend their lead with less than 30 seconds left. Firing over the right-hand side. Got a receiver. Robbie Harrison with a 45-yard touchdown. And Marshall with a convincing lead going into the 4th quarter of action. Can they hang on and take down West Virginia in the Friends of Cole rivalry game, pitting these two Appalachian State football teams? We got a 2nd and 4 coming up as Marshall has a chance to shut the doors. Their quarterback's going to scramble, and Rufus Adams is going to punch it into the end zone himself. And that should do it here. Marshall should end up winning this game, barring some kind of miracle. We got the hiccups at Sexy. So is that throw to Anthony McCollum, staying cool under the pressure, as Marshall did end up sending that blitz. Did not work out at all, to be honest. And West Virginia will go for the 2-point conversion, and Marquise Thompson will catch it to make the score look a little bit better. But Marshall was certainly in control after that first half of action. They cruise to a 2-touchdown victory. Meanwhile, we go over to the opposite side. Well, not on the opposite side of the country. We just go up north as we see Penn State take on the Temple Owls. This is the former stomping grounds of defensive coordinator Jake Jacobs, who is still one of your custom coaches, taking on a number 16 ranked Penn State squad. So this Penn State squad, deserving as one of the higher ranked teams in the country, but they're in a battle against Temple, as Penn State's offense really had a difficult time getting much of anything going in this game. We've only seen 14 total points scored in this entire time, and Penn State doesn't even have an offensive touchdown on its hands. They have 2 field goals and a safety, a very Iowa way of getting to that 8-point marker. That's what you expect out of the Iowa Hawkeyes, not Penn State. But anyways, 2-point lead for the Penn State Nittany Lions, as we will finally see a Penn State touchdown for Brent Adams, as Brian Henry is finally able to punch it into the end zone. That takes them to within 2 minutes. Penn State has a chance to really put this game on ice completely, and it looks like this game is going to be secured. Temple is only down to 1 timeout, but a couple of plays later, they decide to continue to run the ball, and we got a gap here. This is to add some points, some style points on the board. Blaine Ingram is going to score, and Penn State, well, it wasn't pretty for the Penn State Nittany Lions at all, but they still end up beating the Temple Owls in conference play. But now we got one of the best games that we have here early on in week number 9 action. We got a top 10 matchup on our hands now. Ole Miss, the number 7 team in America, participants of the college football playoff in year number 1, they go on the road to take on the number 10 ranked Arkansas Razorbacks. So this could be a massive game for both teams, as both teams look to solidify themselves in Sun Belt Conference action. Could be watching a potential conference championship game at the end of the regular season. Just whoever gets the host is dependent on what happens on this football field. It has a major impact, and Ole Miss taking that more seriously right now as Ole Miss takes a 10-0 lead. But late in the first quarter, though, Arkansas goes in a 5-wide set. He's got some time, and he's going to release downfield, and it's caught! It's caught by Zach Beck, and the Arkansas Razorbacks, they are in business. And later on in the drive, they go back to the air and find Lionel Sanders for the first points of Arkansas's day so far. They'll cut it down to just a 3-point game, courtesy of a Michael Motley touchdown. Now we can switch it over to the second quarter. Still pretty similar score, all tied up at 10 apiece, as Eric Archie tried to go deep, and somehow Lewis Kelly comes down with that. That is a bold strategy for Cotton, but at least for Eric Archie, it works out for him. And it works out big time, because it leads to yet another touchdown for the Ole Miss Rebels, as Ole Miss now back on top, now with a 17-10 lead following the extra point. However, points start to become a little bit of a premium here in the second half, as Archie tries to put the hammer down, but just a terrible decision in the red zone, and Arkansas's defense is going to come up big. However, the same thing can't be said for their offense, as Arkansas could not take over, but thankfully defense came to play in that third quarter, as we got a big play down the sideline. Arkansas will see if they actually score points off of this or not, but Will Hicks just makes an incredible break on the ball here. Eric Archie might have thrown that pass late. He probably did, to be honest with you, but it was a pretty good play nonetheless, and it does lead to an Arkansas field goal. So now just a one possession game between these two teams, but Eric Archie, he finally gets his crap together. He finds Lewis Kelly in the end zone for a 57-yard touchdown as Eric Archie gets that big play that he's been looking for. Kind of been a dink and dunk guy with the exception of a shot or two. So Ole Miss now with a chance to really shut the door. And how about this? Going to Charles Rhodes over on the right-hand side. And yeah, I think it's going to be over for Ole Miss here as the Rebels making a statement on national TV, taking on a top 10 team in the country. Well, they blow them out. Ole Miss wins 34-13 as they'll get to 8-1 on the season. So we'll get an opportunity now to get some studio updates for the very first time, and we got a shocker that is going to shake up the top 25 polls. Syracuse is going to lose to Army 24-20 as the Orange do end up losing their second game of the season. Great win for Army that could sneak them back into the top 25 because they did have a pretty difficult schedule, at least so far. Now, in other news, we go later in to week number 9 action. Multiple top 25 teams going in action. Another top 25 matchup on the way, but first, we will check in on Ohio State, 7-0, taking on the Rockets of Toledo, and they are embodying their inner Rocket Man right now because Toledo actually does have the early lead at the moment, up 7-3. We'll see how long that lasts because if you're going to take down a top 5 team in the country, you are going to have to play all 4 quarters well. And Vixen Gold knows that, and he's going to hand it off to Andrew Bush to give the Ohio State Buckeyes the lead. Now they're up 17-7. But Toledo looking for an answer as they go to the ground game as well, as David Preston doing a nice job, staying patient in that backfield, found the secondary cut. Toledo is right back in this game, and in the second half, we still got a ball game. Toledo, not nearly the same caliber team that Ohio State is, but here they are at home, really utilizing the emotions of Ohio State in their stadium and playing them close right now. But Vincent Gold's going to try to shut that down as he finds Sam Williams in the end zone for yet another touchdown. That extends the Buckeye lead up to 10 points. And then late in the third quarter, some good running here by Brian Britt. A gain of 8 on that run. That makes sure that young running back does get to over 100 yards rushing on the day. But they'll go back to the air, and it looks like they might be finding the end zone. I thought he could have gotten in there, Sam Williams. He already has a touchdown on the day as well, but unfortunately, a holding penalty does bring them back to the 10-yard line. So Ohio State does actually have to start from complete scratch, but no problem for this Ohio State offense because a couple of plays after the penalty, Vincent Gold, he is going to be untouched and gets into the end zone yet again. Ohio State might very well be on their way to putting up a 40 or even 50 burger if Toledo is not careful. But Toledo not giving up though, as William Avery, he's going to get cut into the end zone for his second score of the day. Then cuts it to a 10-point deficit. Could still go either way. Toledo far from done. So Ohio State's going to have to execute pretty well on this drive if they are going to put Toledo away. It's still anyone's ball game. As now, Gold, he's going to pitch it out. He does at the last second. Finds Keith Carter. Hey, Mr. Carter, tell me, how have you been? Ohio State finds the end zone yet again. And with 3 minutes left to play in the ball game, Toledo trying for the last gaps. Gets a touchdown there too, but that's as close as Toledo is going to get. So, admirable effort by the Rockets, but it's not enough. But now a game that is going to be considered a little bit more evenly matched as we got California taking on the Washington Cougars in Pac-12 conference action. As we take a look at the standings right now, Washington and Cal, they are both thick in the race for that Northwest Division title. not affected, of course, by the modern college football realignment, because we actually have them organized based on region. So that being said, go ahead and get this action started as Washington coming out and taking a 10-0 lead early, as Jason Smith, he's fast for a white guy. Well, he runs away from the entire Cal defense, and Washington's going to now have a 10-0 lead. However, we jump into the second half of action. Very defensive-minded game between these two teams that we're a little bit surprised about. They both have very proficient offenses, just shaking guys on the ground. How did Andy Curtis do this? We gotta check this out. 55-yard score for the tailback. And we'll see if we can go ahead and pull up that instant replay, because this has to be the play of the week, and we better not be... Okay, there we go. So look at this. 1, 2, 3 guys go down. He shoves him off his lemonade stand. Another guy tries to take him down from behind. He can't do that. Simply an incredible run after the catch. You cannot draw it up better than that. So Washington's now up 20-0. They have a commanding lead at the moment, but California, to be fair, they will finally score. They actually figured out how to put points on the board as an offense. It only took them 3 quarters to do it, but they did end up doing just that. So Cal trying to get back into the game, but they need some stops from this defense though. And Washington, well, they are certainly a team that is more than capable of holding a lead given their style of football. Look at this run from Andy Curtis, the way that Washington has been playing. Guys, it might be a full course meal, because this is going to be barbecue chicken as Washington, unless there's a massive collapse here in the next 6 minutes of action, it don't look good for the California Bears. They could very well be on their way to their 3rd loss of the season, but we might see a little bit of showboating though, as trying to pad the stats a little bit. Did have a receiver downfield, but just didn't put enough oomph on that football. He might have just underthrown it just a tad. So a little bit of a bright spot in what was a tough day for the Cal Bears. They're going to fall to 1-3 in conference play in this one, as California's going to lose convincingly 27-7, as Washington does manage to get themselves back above 500 after a tough start to conference play. Now, we have more games that are happening all around the country. And speaking of that Pac-12, we got the number 1 team in action. We got the USC Trojans taking on a very resurgent Hawaii team. This Hawaii team went 5-2. They went 2-10 last season. And now just one more win, Hawaii could be going to a bowl game. So nice turnaround already for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, who are going to take the lead on the USC Trojans, the number 1 team in America. They have now been put on notice. Now the question is, can they keep it up for 4 quarters? As USC, we know the type of talent that they certainly have on this football team, and it is immense. Number 1 recruiting class in America, and they have one of the highest overalls in this dynasty, at least in this dynasty file right now. And Ben Scott just doing a nice job of just directing the offense, leading them into a 1st and goal inside the 5-yard line, where Scott, he's going to take it himself, absolutely gets tramped, but he still gets the touchdown anyways. And we'll move over to the 4th quarter, where USC seems like they're starting to pull away, but the Rainbow Warriors do make it interesting though. Joe Perry, he's going to run it in for Hawaii. And if they can get this 2-point conversion, could be looking at a much more interesting game, and they got it! They did manage to get the 2-point conversion. Now Hawaii needs to get a stop. 5 minutes left in the game, but it looks like that stop might not be happening, as Nick Richards scores a 20-yard scamper into the end zone. That's a touchdown for USC. It looks like the Trojans may remain unbeaten, as with 30 seconds left, we got a nice throw over the middle to Matt Clemens to close up that score just a little bit. They'll even go for the 2-point conversion. I appreciate the fact that they are just not giving up anytime soon, but unfortunately Hawaii just not good enough defensively to keep up with USC, as the Trojans do remain undefeated. Now, that being said, we now go to the Dukes Mayo Classic as we go to South Carolina taking on North Carolina. North Carolina now ranked number 12 in the country after losing their opener to Colorado State. They're currently riding a 5-game winning streak. Meanwhile, South Carolina on the opposite spectrum of that. They have lost 5 consecutive games. They'll be looking to try to find a way to snap it. It's not going to be any easy task, although South Carolina is hanging on to a lead right now, up 7-0. But North Carolina is going to run into the end zone with Victor Britt. And we got ourselves a tied ball game after 1 quarter of action ensuing. Now, going into that second quarter, South Carolina does retake the lead off screen, but Davis looks over the middle, finds a receiver, and he's got his man who's going to slice and dice his way in. 21-7 in favor of South Carolina. They got the Tar Heels on upset alert, so North Carolina needs to come back and give them a response of some sorts. Wow, words are incredibly hard. But we got a goal line situation, though. Hopefully this is not as hard. Trying to go over to the right-hand side. Breaks a couple of tackles. And Jeff Brandon is going to bring it in. North Carolina pulls to within just 1 score. And looking as if South Carolina trying to make a big shot downfield before the end of the half. But then a drop ball is going to see North Carolina bring it all the way back. There's going to be no flags on the field as Eric Parham to end the first half is going to give North Carolina all evened up with their rivals to the south, the South Carolina Gamecocks. So we'll see if they can be like Taylor Swift and shake it off as we go into the second half of action. Still a close game in this rivalry game, and in rivalry games, anything can happen. South Carolina is driving midway through the third quarter as Derek Davis, he's going to take off. He's got away from 1 defender, but didn't quite cut up field as what we were expecting. We'll still get a 5-yard rush there, but maybe a touchdown left on the table. However, Davis will make sure that those points are not left on the board for long as Martin Wright is going to pick him up from the grocery store. Touchdown, South Carolina. And the Gamecocks might win this game, barring a North Carolina miracle. And it looks like the fat lady, well, she is gonna be singing it now. South Carolina is gonna shock their rivals to the north as they win 31-21. Expect a tumble from the Tar Heels. Now, we got a team that could benefit from that kind of turmoil in the top 25 rankings. It could be Kentucky. In this MAC conference, the new look MAC conference, I should say, Kentucky is 6-1, but they are not ranked in the top 25. Maybe they could do something against Mississippi State, and 7-1 should be enough to get into the top 25, I would imagine, because Kentucky is not exactly like the smallest program. Like, it's not a big name program by any means, but 6-1, that would be enough most of the time for Kentucky to actually be ranked. I would hope, right? But Mississippi State is going to make that real difficult to give Kentucky some respect, because Mississippi State, while they had a disappointing season, well, they're playing with Kentucky right now. They might be trying to play a little bit of spoiler at the moment as Eric Bolden is going to make that catch into the end zone. That's going to be a touchdown for the Wildcats. As now 14-7 in favor of Kentucky, and we got Mississippi State trying to make a difference as we get late into this first quarter, half of action. Already across the 40-yard line, 1st and 10, as they'll drop back to pass. Gonna throw over to right-hand side. He's got a receiver wide, butt naked open, and it's gonna be the tight end. That's gonna be rumbling and stumbling his way into the red zone. That's Jenkins, who's closing in on 100 yards of receiving already. So we'll see if they go back to him in the future, but Mississippi State, they got the keys out. They are on a drive right now, and we're going to finish it up with a touchdown on the board. 3rd and goal. They do that, finding Allen Wright for the touchdown, and it's a tie ball game at 14 apiece now. So with 1 minute left to play, Kentucky still has all of their timeouts, so they can still do something with the football here if they use their timeouts properly. Now, Brandon Evans does make sure to pick up the first down there before using a timeout. But a couple of plays later, though, 2nd and 6, trying to make a big play downfield. field. Look at this. Big time throw to James Bailey. First down for Kentucky. And the Wildcats, they have a chance to score on their own, but they choose to pass. And it's caught. Justin Terry with a diving score. And the Kentucky Wildcats will take a 7-point lead in the halftime. Now, Kentucky plays the third quarter extremely well. They actually get up to 16 at this point. So, Mississippi State certainly got a lot of work that needs to be done if they want to add a fourth win into their win column right now. But got a nice run up the middle for John Huff, who does get into the end zone. But if they want to make it a one-possession game, they must get this 2-point conversion. Here we go to make it a one-score game, sending the blitz, and we got a man open in the back of the end zone. Suddenly, it's a game yet again. Kentucky, well, on the other end, they can't score, so the Bulldogs of Mississippi State can now go out and tie this game up at any given moment. 30-22 is your score. Less than 4 minutes left to play. Dropping back. No, it's a read option. Can he get the last block? He does! Jeremy Baldwin scores, and now a 2-point conversion away from tying the game. Can they convert from the 2-yard line? Baldwin looking, facing some pressure, and it's brought down. 2-point conversion is no good. But Kentucky cannot run out the clock. Are we going to see a joke job? Are we really going to see that happen right now? The Bulldogs just a couple of first downs away from getting into field goal range. And it's a 2-point deficit as well. That would be enough to win it. 1st and 10. Baldwin fires to the right-hand side. And it's a dot to Isaac Rogers. I don't know how he brought that down, but Isaac Rogers comes down with the catch. Now on the edge of field goal range, but trying to make it more solidified. Baldwin says, screw your field goal team. I'm going to do it myself. Rogers is going to score. And they'll also go for 2 so that they'll need the extra point to win. And they'll get it. They go back to Lance Jenkins. So now down by 6 and Kentucky needs a drive. 1 minute left. Dropping back. Looks over the middle. It's got a receiver. And it's going to be a first down. Courtesy of a Sam Van reception. He's been pretty quiet for most of his day today, but we'll see if he becomes a big part now. Down to the last minute, dropping back to pass again. Looks over the middle of the field. It's intercepted. Oh no, it's picked off. And Mississippi State, down by 16, rallies back and takes down the Kentucky Wildcats 36-30. You hate to see it as a Kentucky guy. But meanwhile, speaking of that old SEC, we now go to Jacksonville, Florida for this neutral site game between Georgia Bulldogs and the Florida Gators. Florida, another team trying to get some respect. 6-2, so they already are going to be bowl eligible, but again, not ranked in the top 25 either. They're taking on one of the best teams in the country so far, Georgia, in their annual rivalry game. And Georgia, at least in this first quarter, well, they are giving them the business right now. Zach Grigsby, he's been a problem all season long for opposing secondaries around the country. And now in a goal line situation. Again, going back to Zach Grigsby, who is going to score for the Georgia Bulldogs, making it 14-0 after one quarter. Florida being thoroughly outplayed right now, but they do have a drive going here early in the second quarter. Looking to get that goose egg off the scoreboard, and it will happen. Matt Smith will punch it in for the Florida Gators. So it's back to being a ball game once again. Florida must play better if they are going to beat this Georgia squad. Meanwhile, later on in the second quarter, Georgia has a 10-point lead. Looking over to the left-hand side, and it's another touchdown. This time, it is the FCS, is the transfer Reggie Peterson from James Madison. He is a James Madison transfer, able to get that receiving touchdown. And from there, the Georgia Bulldogs, well, they never look back. They continue to play suffocating defense all day long. And while Florida is a much improved team from year number one, still lots of work that needs to be done because Georgia, well, You saw it in the title. You saw it in the thumbnail as well. This might be the team to beat to win that national championship here in year number 2. Georgia wins big and remains undefeated. But now we have some more studio updates coming in as Virginia Tech goes down. We also have Fresno State beating Stanford on top of that too. Plus, we have yet another studio update. This is New Mexico able to take down BYU in a little bit of a shootout. Lobos get the 3-4. But speaking of that southwestern part of the country, we got some games that are happening in the southwestern part of the United States. We got the Turnpike rivalry game between Oklahoma State and Tulsa first started. Tulsa fans starting to come out. This is a team that was not very highly regarded back in year number 1, but Oklahoma State, while 2-4, they play at an extremely fast pace. This is one of the fastest paced teams in the entire country on the offensive side of the football, and you can tell that it's going to give some teams that, maybe aren't fully prepared from a conditioning standpoint some serious trouble. So Oklahoma State jumps out to a 10-0 lead early, but here comes the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa. First red zone opportunity of the day for the Golden Hurricanes as they'll go to Derek Alexander, setting up a 2nd and inches here as we now see a 5-wide set late in the pre-snap determination, and is able to get Thomas Frazier open for the end zone. Mike Battle is helping Tulsa battle right back. So now 1 minute left to play in the first half. Munoz is trying to lead another drive for the Cowboys of Oklahoma State. Expecting this no-huddle offense to show up early and often, particularly on this drive, as Munoz throws to the right-hand side, but his receiver gets out of bounds, so they don't have to rush to the line of scrimmage nearly as much. As now, a couple plays later, Munoz again throwing the ball over the middle of the field. He breaks one tackle, breaks his second. Now he's got a little bit of a convoy. And Reggie Reed, not to be confused with the adult famous person, well, he's going to provide a red zone opportunity to try to extend the lead. But Munoz fires and throws an interception. They did all that work to drive all the way down the field. And that's how it goes. Oh, you hate to see it. Hopefully that doesn't just make Oklahoma State be haunted by that by any means. That's a tough look. But Tulsa now has a chance to take a lead because of that. So it might actually haunt them early. And J.R. Perkins, well, he just makes it too easy. He had press coverage on the outside. He beats the press with relative ease, actually. And the timing, well, the time was just chef kiss perfect as Tulsa now takes the lead. 14-10 your score going into the fourth quarter of action. Oh my, that is a bone bruising hit that Kevin Young took. He will remain in the game though as Tulsa tries to score and solidify their lead in the Turnpike Classic. Antoine Lewis comes into the game now. He checks in. An 11-yard catch that makes it a much more manageable 4th down conversion attempt. They're going to go spicy, and the spiciness works. Joseph Green scores, and Tulsa is going to win the football game 24-18 as they also get above 500. Meanwhile, we have two teams that both teams were at one point ranked in the top 25 in year number 1, but I mean, it just hasn't happened here in year number 2 right now. Texas Tech and Oklahoma going to go at it. Oklahoma, definitely getting that benefit of being a big name brand because, look at the records, right? But one, to see this game, to see if either team can go ahead and turn it around still. As we saw Oklahoma get their second win of the season just in the previous episode, if I'm not mistaken. So Texas Tech is down 6-0. So not a ton of things happening here in this particular game, but Texas Tech, like we saw from Oklahoma State, well, they also like to go into their no-huddle offense as well. And it's going to be a 5-wide set. They're going to spread out the field, and we'll see what they end up doing. The 5-wide set, it's actually a quarterback draw, and Gerald Presley is going to find the space in order to punch it in. Now they'll take a lead because Oklahoma, well, they forgot how to make extra points. So that's how they're down by 1, even though they both have the same number of touchdowns. So 3rd and long coming up after Chris Powell gets absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree there, as we go ahead and see this Texas Tech team utilize that no huddle offense once again. 3rd and 7, Presley looking over to the sideline. He drops back. He's got a little bit of time, fires a dot, and it's a 1st down. Also in Oklahoma territory. That's Dion Hammond that comes down and makes the catch as well. As we get into the final 2 minutes of this first half of action, Texas Tech all set up and ready to go. He'll snap it quickly. Presley looks over the middle, finds his receiver again. It's a 1st down for the Red Raiders as they are going guns blazing on this drive. 1st and 10 yet again after another intermediate pass completion. On the verge of a red zone opportunity, they're at the 21. Presley looks over right hand side. It's intercepted. This could be trouble as there is nobody around to stop him. He crosses midfield and he's gonna be gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown, Oklahoma. And the Sooners will actually take the lead. And not only will Oklahoma get a defensive touchdown, oh no, they actually might get a 2nd defensive touchdown. This one even farther out. No one is going to be catching him. He will also be gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown, Oklahoma. And 2 defensive touchdowns might be the difference, because if it wasn't for those defensive touchdowns, Texas Tech would have the lead. And they would have extended this lead further. Instead, they'll still find themselves down, even with that touchdown by Gerald Presley. But 4th quarter, Texas Tech does have a chance to take the lead. They run it up the gut for Leonel Howard. Howard's going to score. Texas Tech takes the lead. And they'll go for the 2-point conversion as well to make it a field goal game. But Presley gets dropped like a sack of potatoes. But the defense, they did all that it could. But the offense sold them in this game. The offense only provided 250 yards. It leads to a Sooners loss. Now, that being said, we do have a key ACC matchup on our hands, as NC State, with the mediocre record that they have, if they can beat this Clemson squad, they are going to be in the driver's seat to go to the conference championship game. Did I read that correctly out of my notes? Yeah, I did read that correctly. Can you imagine that, right? So, tie ball game, 0 apiece here late in the 1st quarter, and we might see some points on the board finally. It's been slow moving for both of these offenses in terms of getting started, but Blake Fountain, he's going to take this read option, and nobody touches him. It was a beautiful job running that option there. So North Carolina State does have the lead, but Clemson is looking to rally back as they go to their running back. He's a pretty good one in Dominique Hawley, who doesn't freak out when the outside was well contained. He just cuts it back inside, creates some extra yardage. It's a favorable 1st and goal situation, which he will finish on his own. Dominique Hawley deserved that touchdown and gets it. So it's all tied now, 7 apiece. 2 teams that are fighting it out for ACC relevancy here within the Carolinas. Dominique Hawley again continuing to go to work, and he has been a bell cow for the Clemson offense today, averaging almost 8 yards a carry. They actually use him as a decoy to set up the wide receiver screen, and it works. Darryl Rogers gets into the end zone there, and now Clemson has their first lead of the ball game. That being said, though, less than 4 minutes left. North Carolina has got a chance to respond themselves as Blake Fountain gets it out to Ben Brown, but it's short. It is short of the 1st down marker, but they're going to be spicy. They're going to go for it here. 4th and 1, going to the outside, and Andrew Jenkins not only getting the 1st down, oh no, they are also going to get the touchdown too. But in spite of that, Clemson starts to pull away in the 2nd half. So North Carolina State, they're going to need some points, and they're going to need them fast, because if not, you know how Death Valley can be, especially when this Clemson team is playing at a high level. And Clemson, they're actually doing that today. They're actually playing at a pretty high level in this one, as Clemson drops back, Gonna run it with their quarterback, but there's a ball. Ooh, Darryl Rogers picked it up. Man, that was close. That could have changed the whole trajectory of this football game, but instead, still just a 3-point lead for Clemson, but they will still have the ball as, listen, you know, those 50-50 balls, if you're a defense that's down right now, this late in the game, you have to pick them up. And unfortunately, they didn't there, and that was another turning point in this game. Clemson's going to pull away in the fourth quarter. They win 38-21, as now Clemson seems like they're in the driver's seat to go to the conference championship. But speaking of teams that have championship aspirations, we got Miami, the defending not only conference champions of the SEC, but also the defending national champions as well. They already have one loss to Georgia, so they can't really afford too many more losses if they want to get in to this college football playoff without even worry about trying to secure an auto bid, right? Because the auto bid process is certainly unique in the NCSL universe. It's the top 5 conferences, not the top 5 conference champions. That's how auto bids are determined to, you know, really account for strength of schedule, right? But 21-3 is still your score at the moment. Miami doing pretty good in this game. While it's not the most offensively gifted game for Miami, defense shut it down pretty well, though, as UCF, better team from last year, but they still lose this one. But now we have some time for some studio updates yet again, and the Baylor Bears, they were actually in a close one with UTSA. The Roadrunners nearly pull off the upset, but Baylor does find a way to win this one behind the true custom Les Jordan. And then more studio updates start to roll in late. Rice, number 4 team in the country. Well, they take down a resurgent UTEP squad. UTEP came in 5-1. This was a sneaky good game, but Rice handles their business as they solidify themselves as a top 5 team. Plus, we get an update on Houston and Texas A&M. Houston's going to win this game convincingly. They win 44-20. I don't know what's going on with Texas A&M, but even in week number 9, they are still the only team in the country that doesn't have a single win yet. So you absolutely hate to see that. But speaking of Texas A&M's conference, we will check in on some Big 12 action. 2 teams in the state of Texas that actually do have some wins right now, and this is the current spot for Jake Jacobs. He's now the defensive coordinator for TCU. Well, they have a challenge on their hands because they're going to be taking on Texas, and Texas started off as an unranked team, but this offense has been one of the most difficult offenses to stop in the entire country. They are averaging close to 50 points a game. This Texas team, they are going to make some serious noise if they're allowed to. But Texas already up 10-0, and Trey Dixon has been a wrecking ball. Call it Miley Cyrus. And it's going to be a goal line situation again. Can Texas put it in the end zone once more? And they will once more with Trey Dixon, who scores yet again for the Texas Longhorns. Now it's 17-0. And oh boy, it's going to get ugly. It might get ugly quick. Another touchdown for Texas. It's 24-0. Here in Fort Worth, Texas, you could actually hear a squirrel fart in the stadium right now. That's how quiet it is. That is how much Texas has taken the home crowd completely out of this game. It's been absolutely insane to watch. So Texas is up 24-0 still, but TCU, they do at least score. Thank goodness TCU can score. Maybe they can work back into this game. Would really help if they can get this 2-point conversion, by the way. But of course they don't. Texas absolutely shuts that down quickly. Yeah, Texas doesn't win as much as it looks on the scoreboard, but they were in control the whole time, though. We do have one more game left in this NCSL week number 9 episode as Alabama, ranked number 23 in the country. They will go on the road to take on the Tennessee Volunteers in the third Saturday in October. Alabama looking to solidify themselves a little bit more as a top 25 team, as if they did end up losing this game, they would likely be kicked out. Yet again, they've been going in and out like a dog trying to get through a doggy door. But Tennessee was off to a good start, but they've lost their last couple of games. They also lost to Georgia So that's not helping. So a team that doesn't have a ton of confidence in Curtis West, well, he certainly has that confidence right now. He has been a certified baller. He is someone that could be the first quarterback taken off of the board in an NFL draft down the line. Maybe something that we'll see in Madden 24 whenever that game is released, of course. So tie ball game at 7 apiece right now, as the Tennessee Volunteers, they're hanging tough though. They are hanging tough with Alabama, as Drew Brown tries to make it a much more reasonable first down. But we do see Brown also break the school record for most rushing yards in a career. He's the first Tennessee running back with more than 3,600 yards. It leads to a field goal, which I didn't want to show the field goals like I have throughout this episode, because field goals are boring. But I did want to note that because that's a massive achievement. Always love seeing a school record being broken in real time, right? And Alabama, they're down by 10 right now. It has not been the perfect game for Curtis West. He's really been shut down, particularly on the ground. So that really has taken away his dual threat ability. But here we are in the fourth quarter. Alabama trying to pull within a field goal. And Adam Lamb's going to do that. Adam Lamb will score for the Alabama Crimson Tide. They'll get it down to just a field goal game. Can Tennessee finish the job, though? They can with this score, but he throws behind his receiver. He breaks the tackle from an offensive lineman, and now he could be gone. Alabama, are they going to take a lead off of this? And I don't see any flags. So you know what that means. Alabama's going to score. And that game, now it's the difference. Alabama wins 24-20 as they come back and win this thing. So let's go ahead now and take a look at some other scores that happened around the country. We start with Florida State taking on the Georgia State Panthers. And for Coach Krakowski, this was not a great day for him. Only got 20 points from his offense. And the defense didn't help very much either, as they allowed 50 plus points in a 52-20 loss to Florida State. As for the Tulane Green Wave, we have a surprising upset as San Jose State, well, they just pull within one win of going to a bowl game. They get to 5-4 thanks to an impressive 35-16 win over Tulane, which forces them out of the top 25. As for UCLA, they continue to be one of the best teams in the entire country. Even though they did lose a game earlier this year, they beat San Diego State 48-10 as UCLA solidifies themselves as a top 10 team despite that one loss on their resume. As for James Madison, they entered this week into the top 25, but that will be no more as Rutgers moves to 5-3 thanks to a blowout of the ranked James Madison Dukes. Rutgers wins 55-21 as both teams are one win away from experiencing bowl season. Meanwhile, the Auburn Tigers were starting the week unranked in the top 25, but thanks to a 42-27 win over the University of Southern Mississippi, Auburn is back in that top 25 thanks to a 42-27 victory. Someone that is firmly entrenched in the top 25, meanwhile, is the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Nebraska taking it out on Kansas as Nebraska ends up winning 42-14 as Nebraska gets to 8-1. Now, the Michigan Wolverines were taking on the Miami Redhawks, and this could have some major implications in the Hoosier division, but Michigan does survive, and they actually thrive in this game, winning 45-21 as they control their own destiny to go to the Big Ten Championship now. But we have another blowout as look at what Old Dominion does in this particular matchup. Old Dominion going to town against Eastern Carolina as the Monarchs win their second game of the season, winning 55-24. Great win by the offensive coordinator, Sam Cash. Now, for the Boise State Broncos, they're looking to get back into bowl season as they will pull back to 500 thanks to this blowout as well. Boise State wins 48-10 as Utah State falls to 2-5 on the year. Navy also gets a very strong win as they go take on the Bobcats of Texas State University. Navy wins 49-21 as they prove that they are indeed worthy of that top 20 ranking. As for the Minnesota Golden Gophers, they are actually on the verge of being in the top 10 thanks to a surge here in the second half of the season. Minnesota winning 34-10 against the Missouri Tigers. Minnesota now just one win away from going to bowl season for the second time in this series. So here we are entering week number 10. We are starting to get into that final stretch of the regular season. Let's see what the top 25 is looking like, considering honing in on that coaches poll. That's what's being recognized still right now. So this is what the top 25 is going to be looking like for the time being. Not a lot of change here. Your top 4 is going to be the same, but Texas does surge up to number 5 in the country, considering they are undefeated still. Only undefeated team not to receive a first place vote. However, Ole Miss moves up one spot. Miami actually goes down a couple of spots. They got reflogged not only by Texas, but also Ole Miss. Both of those teams did have more impressive wins than what Miami had. UCLA kind of in that same boat as well. Louisiana Tech, same thing. They moved down one spot. Not a lot of change here to round out your top 25. However, Minnesota, they move up 4 spots to 11, thanks to a 24-point victory over the Missouri Tigers. Penn State had a struggle against Temple, but pollsters don't really care all that much. They move up to number 12 in the country. Arkansas losing convincingly to Ole Miss. They fall down 3 spots because of that. Michigan also moving up 3 spots. They took down a pretty good Miami of Ohio team. Speaking of teams that scored impressive wins, Washington certainly one of them. They are now in the top 15. They were a team that had a really difficult schedule, but they're navigating it all right, as Washington won by 20 there. Same with Navy. Now, for the last part of the top 25, we got Syracuse down 4. It opens the way for Army to get into the top 25. Alabama had they needed some help, but they got it in their game. They move up 5 spots. Baylor moves up 5 spots as well, thanks to that win against UTSA. Rounding out your group is Colorado State at number 20 in the country. Auburn back in the top 25. They're number 21. Auburn at number 22. Washington State making an appearance in the top 25 as well. They are number 23 in the country. So going to be really interesting to see what happens with that Apple Cup if Washington and Washington State can remain. And rounding out your group is California and North Carolina. So we're starting to get to that point in the season where we are really starting to have the firm answers being put in place in terms of those teams that have a legitimate shot of not only competing for a conference championship, but also a national championship as well. It's going to be fun in these last few weeks of the regular season to sort all of that out and much more. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video of week number 9 action here in the NCSL Dynasty within year number 2. With that being said, I'm going to get ready to sign off. But if you enjoyed this content, do me a huge favor, you guys. Make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Hit that subscribe button as well. If you do happen to be brand new to the channel, this is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off. But hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.